Okay, I left off the last video with an intro to the concept of cytokine storms. This is what is making SARS-CoV-2 such a dangerous virus. It's a new virus our body's never seen before, and our bodies tend to overreact to this virus. And we'll get into that. So cytokine storms, you can kind of follow this path. A normal immune response is initially triggered, which brings in those phagocyte cells and those antigen-presenting cells we talked about. And they'll release an inflammatory reaction to try to kill some of these cells. Basically, the body's really nervous about this new invader. And as we go through the process, we'll start losing lymphocytes, white blood cells, and they will release even more cytokines. And it basically is like a downward spiral. That release will make more of an immune response, and you'll see now we have an exaggerated immune response. And the next slide will go into what happens to lung tissue when we have an exaggerated immune response. So this slide might look a little busy, but if you can follow the mouse, we're going to start in the middle at the top. So what you'll see here is a depiction of what lung cells are like. So air comes through our trachea into our bronchus and branches off more and more smallly till we get to something called an alveolus. So these alveoli, for plural, are where air is exchanged. So this little bubble over here shows that there's two types of alveolus cells. Type 1 are really small and have a very thin membrane, and they actually let oxygen pass through them all on their own. Nothing needs to be done. And then there's a type 2 alveolar cell. This is a larger cell, and it's surrounded by a substance you could call a surfactant. It's kind of like a soapy, oily substance. And oxygen can go through that too, but it needs to diffuse actively. So if you'll look at the next example, we'll see infected alveoli. So now the virus has gotten into these air sacs, and it's going to multiply and multiply, and the body's immune system is going to start to react. So we'll first come down to here where we have a moderate response. So that immune reaction will release a lot of inflammatory signals, more cytokines, and fluid starts to accumulate. And this will reduce the surfactant's ability to diffuse oxygen, and people will start to feel shortness of breath at this stage. And then if that continues longer and the immune system keeps overreacting, we'll get into this severe scenario where the air sac, the alveoli, are totally filled with fluid. There's more and more exudate, more and more dead cells, more and more immune cells filling the area to the point where that fluid becomes protein rich and pretty thick and almost hard. And I've even heard of an ER doctor saying, you know, a healthy lung feels almost like cotton candy in your hands. It's really light and fluffy and easily collapsed. If you felt the lungs of someone in this moderate stage, it would feel like a marshmallow. So there's a little more resistance to it. And then if you wait until that last stage, the lung tissue feels like a hardened marshmallow. And as you can imagine, you cannot breathe with that kind of stiffness to the air sacs. And this is when they'll put someone on a ventilator to try to force the air through. So what can we do to help if this starts happening to us? Well, the first thing that occurs is this increase in oxidative stress. So we know for sure there's things you can do to reduce oxidative stress. Vitamins A, C, and E will do that. The minerals selenium and zinc will do that. Glutathione, we're introducing that for the first time. That's the body's main enzyme or substance to reduce oxidative stress. This one you probably don't want to take as a pill, but you can take it liposomally, or you can dissolve it under your tongue. Resveratrol also helps oxidative stress, the anti-aging substance from grapes. Curcumin helps with oxidative stress. Here we have alpha lipoic acid and N-acetylcysteine again. So actually, glutathione can get fairly expensive, but people will sometimes take this NAC instead, which your body converts to glutathione. And then phytonutrients also help here. And let's say you're starting to really have the symptoms of a cytokine storm. Here you can again take vitamins A, B, C, and E, the minerals selenium and zinc. Stinging nettles pops up again. They can help with the cytokine storm. EFAs pop up again, essential fatty acids. They slow down inflammation. And here's a new one, SPMs. This stands for Specialized Pro-Resolving Mediators. These are actually fractions of fish oils that contain something that's already in our body that are nicknamed resolvins. Resolvins are substances that help your body to resolve inflammation. So as inflammation climbs up, we need something that helps turn it off, and that's these resolvins. You might have heard that you should never take ibuprofen Aleve if you have COVID-19. And that's interesting because ibuprofen and Aleve, they're anti-inflammatories. They do reduce inflammation, but they also reduce resolvins. So they hinder your body's ability to turn off inflammation. And you really need to be able to turn off inflammation if you're having a cytokine storm. Melatonin shows up again here. Here you would use it differently than for sleep or for general immune support. You would want to take 10 to 20 milligrams to help dampen down a cytokine storm. Boswellia shows up again, curcumin again, and nutrients. So here's a page, some of the more recent references. There's plenty more. And here's a page that just describes all the resources you have related to me, my website, my Facebook page, the closed Facebook group related to COVID-19, and the link to receive 20% off supplements through June of this year. And I also don't have it on the slide, but a lot of my information came from the Institute for Functional Medicine. This is the premier group of functional medicine in the country. They have a headquarters at the Cleveland Clinic. And if you look up IFM COVID-19 resources, they've been updating that almost on a weekly basis with plenty of references and articles to read. So I hope you enjoyed this presentation, and I hope you stay well. Remember, the best thing you can do is to just become more healthy and deal with those chronic inflammatory things that you might not even know you have. And always feel free to contact me. I do practice in St. Louis. I also practice online now. And you can even inquire about an immune system program I have where I'll answer all your questions at a much deeper level regarding what we just talked about. Also assessing where you're at an individual level to see what your risk might be and to coach you through things you can do to reduce your risk. So that's all for now. Hope you have a good day.